Hello, entrepreneurs. This is Joe DeCharis, CPA, entrepreneur, and business coach, bringing you another amazing live session of how to grow your business the hard way. Actually, this is the name of my show is Business Success During COVID-19 and Beyond. And I really don't like that name anymore. I'm going to change it, but that's another story. Anyway, tonight, what I'm going to bring you is something different coming from a CPA. You know, I'm going to talk about getting your business, growing your business by getting out of your comfort zone. You know, I am an accountant. I am not a salesperson. But what happened to me about 10 years ago was that I realized after 25 years in accounting, I really didn't have a business. What I had was I owned a very decent paying job. And it was really difficult, to say the least, to get to that next level. And what I want to share with you tonight is part of, the problems that I encountered doing that, but more important, what changed everything and how I did it and how I continue to do it. Because I wanted a business. I did not want a job. If you know anything about my story, I was born to be in business. And I got tricked into becoming a CPA by my dad because it was one of the best things that he could have ever done for me. I was at 17, I was on the wrong track. I had been arrested a couple of times already for assault, believe it or not. I was not hanging out with the right people. And he made a suggestion or just a comment that CPAs run businesses and other businesses go to CPAs for advice, for business advice. And I'll never forget, at that moment, I made the decision and I said, well, then I'm going to be a CPA, I told my father. And it was never even a question. The funny thing is, I didn't know that that meant I was going to be doing accounting for the rest of my career. And had I known that, I might have been doing something else. And right now, I might be flipping burgers at McDonald's. Who the heck knows? But I went through 25 years of what I considered trials and tribulations, a lot of turmoil. Because to be honest with you, after about 5 years in accounting, I said, this isn't the career that I wanted. And I tried for a long time to get into another career because I just felt like accounting wasn't for me. And 10 years ago, it all changed because I read a couple of publications and I had an epiphany that I was approaching my business the wrong way. Not so much the wrong way. I was approaching it the way I was taught. And as an accountant, I was taught that it was all about numbers. And as long as I kept, track of my numbers, everything would fall into place as long as the revenue numbers were going up. And no matter how much I tried, no matter how many clients I got, because I was always able to get new clients. Getting the clients wasn't always the problem. It was keeping the clients, or actually it was getting the right clients, because it wasn't just about getting new clients. I always got new clients, and what I did was, because I was the problem solver, that was my specialty. I solved accounting and tax problems. I would attract clients with accounting and tax problems, only to find out that they created most of those problems because of the way they ran their business. And they ran their businesses based on how they ran their lives, basically. Their businesses were a mirror image almost of how they ran their lives. Now, I have some clients that have been with me 20, 25 years, and that's almost a testament to them and their integrity and how they run their lives because it's been steady. They have been steady. And they came to me either because they wanted to start a new business and they already had their lives in order, or they had problems because they got bad advice or they had a bad accountant or whatever. So we fixed those accounting problems and they didn't have those underlying personal problems, which was basically the status quo for the clients that I was attracting. So I put no real thought into the people that I was attracting into what I came to understand as what my sales funnel was. And 10 years ago, I started studying because what I was studying and what I came to believe is what you study, your dominant thoughts is what you bring into your life and your business. So my dominant thoughts were on solving accounting and tax problems. And that's exactly what I brought into my business. So I was always able to generate revenue. I was always able to get new clients. And I always wondered why at some point in the process, I would start butting heads with my clients. And it happened time and time again. And I never really took a step back to see what the problem was. See, the problem was never me, it was always them. If they only listened to me, if they only followed my direction, everything would be fine. So it was almost like I blamed them. I blamed other people, other circumstances for the fact that I was never really able to grow a large accounting practice. And again, I could have if I had a different mindset. See, I didn't want to just be the accountant and work 80 hours a week like I saw other CPAs do. And other CPAs grew very nice, lucrative practices by being good accountants. And I was a very good accountant. I was very good at solving problems, especially tax problems. But I didn't want to just be the accountant. I wanted to be the entrepreneur. And I wanted to create a system that people followed and listened to my advice and just did what I asked them to do so that I could create a large business. I didn't want a large accounting practice necessarily. So I was all discombobulated. And then 10 years ago, I started studying success. Instead of studying problems and how I could solve them and why businesses were failing, because that was really the obsession that I had. The fact that so many small businesses could not break out and could not stay in business. So I was able to stay in business. I considered myself, part of the small percentage of people that actually stayed in business. I've had an accounting practice for over 25 years. I've had plenty of other businesses that are no longer in business, most of them because they failed. They failed because I did not understand the success principles. I followed accounting principles to try to start and grow new businesses. I mean, and I started some pretty crazy businesses, which I talk about them. I consider them learning investments, and I had a lot of expensive learning investments. So I never failed at business. I just had a lot of investments in my education. Hey Pat, how's it going? Uh, so 10 years ago, I came across a book called The Science of Getting Rich, and it didn't turn my business upside down or my thought. It actually turned it right side up. It turned it right side up because what I realized was it all started with how I was thinking. And the results I was seeing was actually a sequence of events that I had started based on, number one, based on my beliefs, which were ingrained in me from when I was growing up. And I talk about this a lot, those beliefs about money doesn't grow on trees, just those beliefs that we really don't have a choice in determining, because we don't get to choose our families. We don't get to choose them. And whether they were great families, they were dysfunctional families, it doesn't matter. Whatever was ingrained in them becomes ingrained in you. And if your results are not what you want them to be, you need to do what I did, which is go back and start peeling away the onion skins and saying, well, if I'm not getting the results that I want, what is the chain of events that is leading me to here? So once I realized that I had all of these, what we call false beliefs, and there were a lot of them, actually the fear of success, I kept shooting myself in the foot. Well, why was that? Well, it was based on the fact that I didn't think that I deserved to be successful. These beliefs were all embedded in my subconscious. And what I found out was your subconscious is really driving everything. I thought it was my consciousness. Your conscious thoughts are like the steering wheel. So if you think of your brain like or your actions like a car, you're conscious, you're steering, you see where you're going and you want to steer this way and steer that way. But the engine is really what's driving everything. And your subconscious is your engine. They didn't teach me this in CPA school. And they didn't teach me this, and I didn't understand it after 25 years in accounting, working with thousands of businesses and seeing most of them fail. And all I did for that time, because I was an entrepreneur and I wanted to help other people succeed in their businesses. Because when it came down to it, what I really want to do is help people. And that I learned was from going way back into my childhood. And I said, I've been helping people my whole life. I just wasn't helping and serving in the right way. Because how could I? How could I serve people in the right way? How could I lead people to success if I couldn't find it myself? And when I talk about success, I'm not talking about monetary success. The monetary part of it, the material part of success, turns out, is really just a result of those actions that you take. You see, early in my career, I had two different clients that really raised questions for me. One client was unbelievably wealthy. I mean, he could write a check for $1 million and it would actually clear. It would clear because he had that much cash. He owned real estate, artwork. Uh, he was worth well over $10 million. He owned 3 successful restaurants, and money was not a problem for this man. Happiness was a problem because he was one of the most miserable people I ever met, even to this day. His children could not stand him. His son, who was what he is, how could I say this? He was so proud of his son, and all he wanted was his son's approval and his son to say, "Thank you, Dad." But what his son did was he left him and he went down to Florida to open his own restaurant. He wanted nothing to do with his father. And that broke his heart, and I could see it. And he died. He passed away miserable. And then I had this other family who they weren't rich in monetary terms. They didn't have a lot of money. They lived from week to week. They had 3 little children, and my client's wife stayed at home and worked. You know, there weren't a lot of stay-at-home jobs back then. And I'm talking about the early 90s, before the internet. And they would come into my office every year. They didn't own a business. They were just regular tax season clients. And they would come in and they would be happy. They would come in with their 3 kids, and their kids would jump all over the office. And it was fun. I loved it because they were happy. And they owed the IRS money every year. And every year they would say, "Oh, let's see how much do we owe this year? And we're going to have to make another, installment agreement." So I looked at these 2 different ends of the spectrum. And I said, I really didn't want either one of them. I mean, the people that were happy, I didn't want to have no money and be happy. And I didn't want to have a lot of money and not be happy. I wanted to be happy and have a lot of money. That is what the science of success taught me. What Wallace Wattles taught me in the science of success, and if you haven't read it and you want it, all you're going to do is go to my website, Bedrock Business Builders, and if you scroll down, there's a little button there, and I forget what it says, but it says free, how to get rich now, and you could download 2 publications that are in the public domain now, and they're free, which is another thing that blew my mind. All the information you need to become rich and successful is actually free. You don't need to get a college education. You don't need to spend $100,000 and come out with a gazillion dollars in student loans. Ralph Waldo Emerson talked about this, and that's another thing that you could read, The American Scholar, which is one of his essays. And believe it or not, Ralph Waldo Emerson, that was a speech that he did at Harvard University. And at the commencement. And he basically said that the paper that you're going to get that says, that you're whatever from Harvard University, it's not worth the paper that it's printed on, unless you do something with that. So all of this stuff that I was reading was really blowing my mind. I'm like, but this isn't what I was taught. And then Napoleon Hill wrote a book called Outwitting the Devil, and I found out why it wasn't being taught. But that's a whole nother issue. So what I learned was that it wasn't a matter of I wasn't working hard. I worked my tail off. And it wasn't a matter of not doing the right thing, because I always did the right thing. And I always got clients. And I got good clients. I got good people with good intentions that worked hard, but their results were nil. The results did not equal their effort, their beliefs. There was something wrong with the equation. And so those two publications, The Science of Getting Rich and The Law of Success, which was the precursor to Think and Grow Rich, turned my business philosophy and my life right side up. It wasn't about revenue and cash flow. It was about my mindset and what I was thinking. And Napoleon Hill called it, well, what he said was it was auto-suggestion. You could change the way you think through auto-suggestion. And so I had this picture of my results and my beliefs, and I saw that my beliefs that led to my mindset were not going to get what I wanted. What I wanted was a business that gave me enough money so that I could do what I wanted, when I wanted, with whoever I wanted. And it was going to be my choice. See, because the way I was going was not going to end up the way that I wanted. I could have kept going that way and saved up money and had a retirement. And, you know, when the end came, I would have had a nice little nest egg to leave people. And, you know, I will have that, but I also wanted what comes in between, which is living the life that I want to live. So through auto-suggestion, I followed Napoleon Hill's suggestions, which was to create a definite chief aim, which I still have, and I still, well, I can't show it to you right now, but I have it, believe me. And by ingraining, by immersing myself in successful principles and reading books about success, you know, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Tony Robbins, and not only reading it, but acting in that way. You know, Wallace Waddle said, you have to think and act in a certain way. So I started thinking about success and I started acting successful. And what I mean by that is the way that I walk, the way that I talk, what I teach is based on becoming successful. And that was the first thing that I learned. I had to change the way that I thought. And that was 10 years ago. And I wish I could tell you that was all that it took. Because it was hard. It is hard. It's simple, but it's hard. And if anybody tells you it's going to be easy, they're lying to you. Because one thing that I've learned a lot of things about studying success. And when you look at successful people and what they did to become successful, None of them did it overnight. They all put in the hard work, the effort, and they failed. They failed plenty of times. And then I started hearing terms like fail quickly, fail a lot. Okay, because when you start a business, I don't care what it is, and you have an idea about how you're gonna, do it and how, who you're gonna serve and all the details that go into it, probably none of it is gonna work the way that you think it's gonna work. But what we do as entrepreneurs is we find out what doesn't work as quickly as possible. And if 99 out of 100 things don't work, that means that one did work. And you keep that one thing and you do something else another 100 times and you fail 99 times, but then you got two things that work. And they're building blocks. And that's why I call my business Bedrock Business Builders. I help people build businesses one step at a time. And you need to have a foundation to build anything. So now my foundation was based on accounting and knowledge. See, all those businesses that I started and failed at, I didn't fail for the reasons that most people fail, because of how complicated the system is and how much compliance that a new business owner has to adhere to. When you start a business, you're automatically considered a sole proprietor. And there's 25 million out of 30 sole proprietors out there. And being a sole proprietor is the worst way to do business. So that was another thing that didn't make sense to me. Why are so many people sole proprietors when it's the worst way to do business? And the answer is because it's so damn complicated and they get confused, and a confused person has a hard time making a decision. So you're confused, it's complicated, and then you fail and you get discouraged, and then you go and get a job because business was not what you thought it was. And then I find out that the people that have succeeded, that small percentage, didn't give up because they really believed in what they were doing. And I call that tenacity. Those people that gave up, they weren't suited for business. They didn't belong in business. They gave it a shot, they failed, and they went and they gave up. But now we got all these millions of businesses that are not going to give up, that are going to keep going, and they're going to keep failing. And they're going to go through financial turmoil, and they're going to be ridiculed, and they're going to lose stuff, and then they're going to start over again. So my purpose in life became, how do I get those people to that other place? How do I get those people, like the clients that I had that kept failing? What can I do as an accountant to help them succeed? What can I do as an accountant to help them break that barrier? I call it the gauntlet. And people like Walt Disney, people think, oh, Walt Disney, one of the most successful people that ever lived. You know how many times he was broke and he was getting evicted out of his offices? There's a Netflix movie called Walt Before Mickey. Napoleon Hill, the godfather of personal development. You know how many stupid decisions he made and how many times he lost everything? I mean, a couple of times it was out of his control. the Great Depression and other things. And it wasn't until he looked in the mirror one day, just like I did, and he said, I wrote this book about success, but I'm not following it. It was as simple as that. He decided to follow his own advice. So 10 years ago, I had this epiphany that I wanted to teach these principles to millions of entrepreneurs. And I started doing it, and I started creating masterminds, and I hit another brick wall. And the brick wall was me. Because guess what? I wasn't the person, I wasn't the businessman that I was trying to teach other people to become. I wasn't following the Napoleon Hill principles. And what I learned was you can't just follow them and become successful. It takes time. And that's when I decided, instead of going into the success business and thinking that I was going to get out of accounting, because that was my goal. I did not want to be an accountant, because to me, in my limited thinking, I was going to be limited as an accountant. The good news is today, I love being an accountant. I realized that I could not be helping people succeed had I not gotten that accounting information, that experience. I was in the trenches. I was in the guts of thousands of businesses, and I saw what they did from a financial standpoint. I'm not like Tony Robbins, obviously. I'm not like Robert Kiyosaki. Those people can talk success, and they can motivate people and inspire them. That's not me. So I had to take my God-given talents, my experience, and say, how can I help people reach that plateau? How can I help them get through the gauntlet and break out and become that small percentage of people that succeed? And the answer was, I had to go through what I went through, which was a lot more trial and error, a lot more pain and suffering. But I was ready for it this time. I expected it. And I said, this ain't going to be easy. It never is. But at least now, I have the information that I was looking for all that other time, for all those decades of what is it going to take for me to be happy and rich. And like I said, all the information was in those 2 books. The Science of Getting Rich gave me the framework. The Law of Success gave me more of the nitty-gritty. But then I had to take action, and I had to apply those principles to what I was doing. And I got off track plenty of times, where I stopped reading my definite chief aim. And that's what happens. Stuff happens. Your life happens. And you get thrown off course. Things outside of our control, like what's going on right now. But what I did was I stopped blaming myself, and I stopped blaming other people. And I just kept going and going. And figuring out that, you know what, if I want to do this the right way, I got to become a public speaker. I got to learn how to get up on stage and talk in front of people. One of the hardest things that anyone can do. And I got up in front of 400 people plenty of times, and I made a fool out of myself. And I embarrassed myself. But I knew that every time I did it, I was another step closer. I was another step closer to being able to teach other people how to do it. Doing this took a lot of trial and error. This actually is harder than getting up in front of a crowd. But I trained myself because right now I don't even know if anybody's listening to me, or I didn't know. And then it became, I didn't even worry about it because if only one person was in the live, I was going to do my best to bring my message to that one person. And then I found out that I could record this stuff and upload it to YouTube. And what a surprise when people started following me. But I went into it just with the intention of doing my best, giving my best effort, and then I let the results happen. So now I have the information. Now I have the knowledge. Now I got to put the stuff into action. And now I got to become a salesperson because every successful person is in effect a salesperson. The last thing that I ever wanted to do was be a salesman. I don't want to have to sell my services. You see, up till then, as an accountant, all I had to do was talk about, hey, this is how I'm going to solve your tax problem, because I knew that. And I was able to put people at ease and get accounting clients. But now, if I wanted to take my business to the next level and increase my pool of clients to where it was a business and not so much as a practice, and it wasn't owning a job, and little by little, I went from having an office and being confined to a geographic area where only my only clients were people that could actually drive or walk to my office. See, that was one of the constraints in my mind that I had as an accountant. I said, how am I going to be a successful business owner as an accountant if I'm limited? And I lifted the limitation in my brain, in my mindset, and I created a remote bookkeeping system. And once I had that, I hired my mom and I taught her how to do bookkeeping. And she was on the other end of the country. And all of a sudden, I wasn't even limited to the talent pool, because growing an accounting business, you need talented people that can do the technical work. And then I started getting clients in other states. And all of a sudden I said, oh my God, now I have a business. I'm not limited. Maybe accounting isn't so bad after all. But now I had to conquer the sales part. And how did I do that? Well, I was told that if you become an author, people will notice you. So I wrote a book, my first book, From Myths to Money. And this took me years, people, even though you see how thin it is, it's not a big book. Writing it wasn't the problem. Writing it for me was easy. Becoming proud of it was the hard part. See, I had hundreds of copies and they stayed in my garage. And it was a different cover. I had an ugly old picture of me and I wasn't proud of it. Until one day I picked it up and I started reading it again. And he said, you know what? This information isn't that bad. It's actually pretty good. and I became proud of it. And then I became an author again by being in a collaboration book. This is my friend Sue Brook, who was on with me last night, and she put together Discover Your Identity. And this one is Discover Your Inspiration. And then I became a best-selling author with this, my friend Susie Pruden, who has Itty Bitty Book, the amazing Itty Bitty Book Publishing Company. So now I have a bookkeeping, I have several books, I'm an author, and now I'm going on stage and speaking. And all of a sudden I'm like, I've arrived. No, I didn't. I got noticed. I got noticed because I did what other people said I should be doing. And it was good advice. It was great advice. And these things are assets now. I have them forever. And now I can honestly say I'm a best-selling author. And I have another itty-bitty book coming out about S-Corps. Okay, because that is part of what I do today. And I'm gonna give you one last piece, if I can share my screen here with you. And I'm gonna show you one of the last pieces, and this is what I teach people. Because one of the things that I realized is that most people don't even know what they're selling. And if you don't know what you're selling, it's going to be pretty hard to sell it. You see, I thought I was selling bookkeeping and tax preparation. It turns out people didn't hire me because they thought I was the greatest accountant and I had the most knowledge. Because honestly, believe it or not, there's better accountants out there that know more about tax law than I do. But they don't have the ability to connect with people. So I had that ability, but what I lacked people in order to be the salesperson, in order to get people into what they call the sales funnel, I could not have a business until I did that. And so a big part of, not only changing my mindset, I had to get out of my comfort zone, which is another lesson. So if you want to be successful in business, you got to be willing not only to take risks, but to feel completely uncomfortable with what you're doing because it's not natural. I had to do things that did not come naturally to me. And I just got a client, her name is Terry. Okay, and she is inspiring me. She's inspiring me because she is not comfortable with the numbers part of her business. But she has the courage to get through that because she knows that unless she knows this and understands her numbers, she can't be really successful. And she trusts me to teach her. So she's got the tenacity, she's got the knowledge to do what she wants to do. She can sell it, but where she's weak is on the financial end. And that's where most people are weak. See, a lot of people fail, not because they don't have the desire, they're not doing the right thing, even because they don't have the right mindset. A lot of those sole proprietors fail because they don't know my end of the business. They don't know the numbers, and it confuses them. And when they don't know that stuff, it hurts them. And another thing that successful people will tell you is that they know their numbers. You have to know your numbers. And the way that you're going to do that is by learning them, no matter how uncomfortable it becomes. no matter how much you hate it. And a lot of people don't like to look at their personal finances because it's scary. It's freaking scary to look at how much you're not worth. Not your net worth, what you're not worth, because nobody's worth in financial terms what they want to be worth. Not yet. But if you have a business, you have a chance to do what I learned when I was a kid. I was told that if you put your mind to it, you can do anything. And I took that literally. And we only have a couple of more minutes before I have to get off. So I want to talk about what I was really uncomfortable with and the sales funnel, which is really what everybody needs. You need a sales funnel. And I didn't get this. I had to learn it. And then I had to implement it. So what is a sales funnel? So the sales funnel, now I'm an accountant. I do business coaching. I have services. So what I learned was that I had to convert my services into products. It's hard to sell an intangible. People want to see and touch something. They want to see and touch it. So I had to convert some of my products and some of my services into stuff that people could touch. And I started calling them products. So one of the things that you need, and I talked about this a couple of days ago with having the sales funnel, and the first thing on the top is you need a way to attract people. Something that I was uncomfortable with. How do I attract all these people? And you need something that's free or very low cost. So my group, Bedrock Business Builders, is free. So I'm attracting people into my sales funnel. But the crux of what I wanted to teach tonight is, what everything I talked about was the fact that most people don't even know what they're selling. They don't know really how they make money. Now, if you're a social media expert, yeah, okay, so you're selling people a package of social media services. But that's too broad. That's way too broad. You got to narrow it down as far as you can and then present it as products. So I don't care if you're doing credit repair, if you're a lawyer, you got to be able to present it in a tangible way to your customers. And it doesn't have to be this. If you see this, it doesn't have to be a physical product, but you have to be able to present it as this is what I have. So if you could see this, I have a do-it-yourself S Corp. You don't have to hire me to do an S Corp. I created a course that people can go to on Bedrock University, and you can learn how to do your own S Corp and get support from me. And I've had people do that. So that's one of my products. So now, once I have people in my sales funnel through things like my Facebook group, or people that go to my website and download one of my free reports or the Science of Getting Rich, now I have an audience. Now I could present something to them. And at some point, if you're in business and you keep hearing from me, at some point you might need one or more of my services. And if I just define them as, oh, I can prepare your taxes, or I can do your bookkeeping or your payroll, that is way too broad. That is way too broad. So I carved out what I do, and I made them into products. So you don't have to hire me to do your bookkeeping or accounting, but you can hire me just to set up your S Corp. I have clients that they have accountants. Well, how is that? Because I offer different products and services than what accountants offer. I don't just offer bookkeeping and tax products anymore. Now I offer business coaching. That was another thing I had to add to my repertoire. So I have a list. So when I get a client as a coaching client, I ask them to do a couple of things. And this is one of them. I need a list of how you make money. What are your products and services? So I have clients that have 18 different products and services, but they don't have them organized. They don't have them organized in a fashion that I can match it up with their sales funnel. So this is the lesson for today, folks. Whatever you're selling, you need to put it down on paper and be able to look at it. And then line it up with your sales funnel. And then from this, you can bundle stuff. So I have another spreadsheet here, and this is the different services at different levels. And if you see this is just like one of those software offers where you get the free version, the normal version, and the premier version. So these are the things that I learned as far as the sales part of my business. So I'm going to leave you with this. I call it the three-legged stool. There's three legs to every business. I don't care if you're Apple Computer or a candy store. You have the sales segment. You have the product segment. You need a product. First, you have to have a product or a service to sell. Those are two legs. If you don't have a product, you're not selling anything. So now if you have a product or a service and you're able to sell it, now you got two legs. The third leg is what I do, the administration, the accounting. And all three legs have to be balanced equally. Because if you're just selling, you're out of balance. If you're just making a product and you're not selling it, you're out of balance. But guess what? If you have a good product and you're selling it, at some point you got to start accounting for it. So you got to look at your business and look at the three legs and see where are you deficient and then fill that void. So there's people that have businesses like Andrew Carnegie that became one of the richest, most powerful people on the planet. He didn't know a thing about manufacturing steel, but he built a business that became U.S. Steel. So how did he do it? He had people that knew that. And he had accountants and lawyers and stuff to keep that. Like what Andrew Carnegie was great at was the selling and the ideas and bringing people together. So you need all three legs, people. Now, if you're deficient in the third leg, the administration, the accounting, you can contact me. All you got to do is go to timewithjoe.com and book a free chat with me. Or if you're not ready to do that, just go to my website and download those publications that are free. bedrockbusinessbuilders.com. Download the information. Or the third choice is go to bedrockuniversity.com. And you could see I have a bunch of courses up there, not only from me, from other people that have put together information so that you could become successful. Okay, that's my story. I'm sticking with it. Thanks for watching. Over and out. I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.